Hello everyone, Calina of StoryRetold, continuing with the Arglefumph's Everything Wrong with Nancy Drew's series. This is Danger on Deception Island. There are spoilers. I have not seen this video before at all. According to my watch history, I never watched it. So, this is going to be my reaction. Will I agree with Michael? Or is it just for fun that he makes fun of Danger on Deception Island? We'll see. What has he got? Bring it.
Game forces you to choose the difficulty setting 2 times in a row. They're still reusing the tutorial from Game 4.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good tutorial. What's wrong with it?
And Beth arranged this little vacation for me, and sometimes their plans don't work out so well.
It's confirmed! Nancy hates her friends.
Ha! Her plans? That was an issue with the context of that dialogue. It's saying that their plans don't work out so well. It's usually Nancy's plans that don't work out so well.
Called Snake Horse Harbor. Kind of a creepy name for a town, don't you think?
Deception Island is a way creepier name, but Nancy completely ignores it. The bicycle helmet here is a different color from the one Nancy uses.
Oh, good point.
When Nancy first arrives,
Yeah.
Katie is standing in place and staring at the wall. Katie leads a very boring life. How did Katie get that bag of groceries here if she traveled by bicycle? Nancy goes on vacation and accidentally uncovers...
Hang on. Maybe Katie has a car that we just don't see up at the parking lot.
a mystery cliche.
Yeah.
Katie tells Nancy to enjoy herself, and then proceeds to lecture her for a minute, which is the exact opposite of enjoyment.
Your bunk's the empty one below.
There's no bunk bed here.
Slang. It's term. You're bunking there. You can bunk in a cabin.
Nancy has to wait for all the ice to melt before she can see what's inside here, because she doesn't know how coolers work. This puzzle.
Okay, yeah. That puzzle. It's not so bad if, it wouldn't be so bad if they didn't have Nancy respond to every single time you put a pipe down. The audio gets annoying.
The puzzle tells you to right-click to rotate the pieces, but you don't have to rotate them in order to solve the puzzle.
Huh, yeah, that's true. That is true.
The game gives no indication that this puzzle must be solved from the bottom up.
Or where the starting point and the ending point are. Yes, I agree. This puzzle could have been designed better.
Andy literally left his calling card at the crime scene. Worst culprit of the year.
I mean, Katie could have had the card and it could have just floated there. It's possible.
Katie's food selection is pretty awful, considering that she just bought groceries 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine except for the old stuff she's got in there. Maybe she just hasn't cleaned it out yet. The fridge.
Why does Katie have jellyfish in her fridge? Sure, it's labeled, but one groggy midnight snack and she's in trouble.
Yeah, that was, that's poor planning on a scientist's part. Studying specimens and mixing specimens in the food consumption fridge. That's not good.
Why does Katie have so much old, expired food in her fridge? Is she saving it for something?
Good question.
According to this calendar, Katie only takes 1 coffee break a month.
Coffee break at Kettle, yeah. Yeah, hang on, I got... Yeah.
Katie is way too excited about going to Jenna's cafe, considering the two of them hate each other.
Maybe they've only recently started to hate each other?
Oh, hey, Nancy has a new anagram buster. Gee, I wonder if there will be an anagram challenge in this game.
Well, it's a good thing the player gets to see this ahead of time so that once the problem presents itself, she'll know how to solve it. At least the player will.
Once again, Nancy can't send email.
Yeah, same issues with the previous game. It's a programming thing. Why do you need the player to send emails anyways?
According to these emails, Nancy's father is incompetent.
Now, hang on. Some people are not super skilled in some areas, and they're skilled in other areas. Like administrative work and organization versus baking and cleaning and handyman stuff, you know? It's a thing.
You can't call Bess and George at the start of the game, even though Nancy's journal and task list tell you to do so.
Oh, that's too bad. I guess that's right.
Nancy is intrigued by the empty microscope. Nancy does everyone else's chores cliché. This puzzle.
What's wrong with this puzzle? I love this puzzle. I have so many people refer back to this puzzle in real life because of the book's organization or trying to stuff things in boxes for packing. People will think about this puzzle when they do that.
Why does clicking on one book move 3 books? Did Katie glue them together or something?
When you're grabbing books, you can grab a whole bunch at a time and then move them together. Efficiency.
Culprit does not accuse Nancy of being a meddling kid.
What? Culprit does not accuse Nancy? The culprit right here is accusing Katie of meddling, because this note is for Katie, not Nancy. Are we supposed to accuse Nancy every time for meddling?
Katie said I shouldn't use her kayak without a GPS.
Nancy talks at the same time Nancy talks.
Yeah, I guess there was no blocker on audio, over clipping audio.
Andy's hair and fake buff flannel.
Fake buff flannel? Why is it fake? What's wrong with his hair? His hair is great.
When you first meet Andy, he tells you about the recent robberies. It's later revealed the culprits work for him, so that means he ratted out his employees to Nancy for no reason.
Unless it's been in the papers and he's just reporting the local news.
Miss, please don't touch that.
Later on, he forces you to touch it.
Because he asks you for a favor.
Game forces you to learn things. Ew. This puzzle.
What's wrong with it?
Same sound effect for 4 different actions. That confused me so much when I first played this game.
Okay, they could have had
One of
better
the prizes
audio
on the wheel is a caddy cap, but there are no caps for sale in the gift area.
Yeah, that's true. Huh, inconsistency. Maybe they're sold out.
Bald eagle butt.
Okay.
And for letting me use your camera.
Nancy is staying on a whale-watching tour boat, and she didn't bring her own camera.
Yeah.
Nancy becomes overly obsessed with this one piece of driftwood, because it will become relevant to the plotline later on. Nancy doesn't investigate who sabotaged Katie's boat.
She kind of works towards that.
Sure, she tells all the other characters about it, but beyond that, she doesn't do anything to help identify the saboteur culprit. Here's a postcard of crab biology. That's something people want to send to their friends, right?
I mean, it's a quick souvenir item. What? I don't know.
Why does the culprit feed the orca with non-native fish? It should be cheaper and easier to get local fish.
Is it really not local?
Holt drinks coffee with the mug handle turned away from him.
Hey, I grab my coffee cup any direction it's facing, too.
Holt encourages Nancy to vote for him, even though he knows that she's a tourist who can't vote in local elections.
Hey, haven't you found yourself saying vote for Holt even though you're a real-life person and not a fictional character as well?
With no prompting at all, Holt gives Nancy a long lecture on caddy and Shanghaiing, mainly because it becomes important to the plot later on. They're not very subtle in this game.
No.
Everybody in town has heard about these secret tunnels, but nobody draws a connection between them and the robberies.
Yeah, unfortunate, huh? Didn't the police investigate that? Well, here in this particular building, nobody knows about it. The tunnel entrance.
You know what else I got in my duffel?
How did Holt fit that giant crab container inside the tiny little duffel? Holt.
His response is this little seamanship quiz. So he might have that quiz in his duffel, but the basket could be hiding somewhere else behind him, maybe?
Holds everything in the exact same position. Holt wants Nancy to do a quiz? At this point, I would ask someone else if they have a GPS. In order to go kayaking, Nancy must answer a bunch of questions that have nothing at all to do with kayaking.
Well, like Holt said, he said instead of fishing people out of the ocean and rescuing them all the time, he wants to set up this quiz to make sure that people are not incompetent and unknowledgeable of basic sea knowledge, which makes sense. I mean, if you don't know which way to hold a paddle and how to paddle a kayak, that's an error. But people should also know some of these basic things, like which way does the sun set? Some of these other things are not relevant, I think, too. But it's a purpose for the game design, for the player to learn new things, according to the theme of the game.
Holt's quiz contains a blatant political advertisement for himself. Rises in the sky, no?
Okay.
Nancy will ask Jenna to identify Andy, even if she's already met Andy.
Right. Oh, well, okay.
Jenna gives Nancy unlimited free food. How does she stay in business?
That's a good question.
Jenna and Andy have no problems gossiping about Hilda's mental problems.
Yeah.
You pick up the same book if your cursor is here or here.
Wide range of hotspots. That makes it easy for the player to get the most important thing on the shelf and not be pixel hunting for things.
Holt forces Nancy to get a crab, then he arrests her if she gets it wrong. Holt is a jerk.
I know.
Holt comes from the
That was
left in
bad.
this scene, which is impossible, because he's not there when you check that area, and besides, the spot is closed off by a fence. Why is Holt so protective of the lighthouse? That was never explained.
If he's running for harbor master, I know that there's some sort of responsibility in maintaining the care of, like, some of the lighthouses, or at least in that area. So you don't want, people graffitiing it or whatever. That makes sense.
See you around the compass.
The Hardy Boys somehow know Nancy's phone is next to a compass rose.
His number's 360-555-3095.
Katie has memorized the phone number of the local cargo container enthusiast. Katie owns a complicated book on wood, but Nancy can't refer to her for help with the wood puzzle.
Yeah, that might have made sense, but at this point, Nancy is also suspicious of Katie, so better to ask a character who's not going to be deflecting answers or suspicion on themselves.
Nancy can't look up information on wood on the internet.
No, that's true. That's too bad, huh?
Dr. Pritavichu's book contains that photograph of herself and her phone number. She must be desperate for a date. The water level changes whenever you grab your kayak gear. There's a big white gap where the smaller headline should be. The newspaper's byline reads, "Deception Silent."
Oh no, you're right. That's a typo.
In a town full of fishermen with GPSs, nobody but Nancy recognizes W123 and N48 as being part of local coordinates. Gravity doesn't work like that. Nancy is murmuring an awful lot for somebody who only wrote 2 letters. Game
funny.
automatically replaces the text you wrote for no apparent reason.
I know it capitalizes it.
Nancy takes 2 of the papers with her, but leaves Hilda's letter behind. Why?
I don't know.
Why does Andy give this to all of his customers? It's got meaningless letters on it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, maybe he didn't question Hilda's craziness, and he just accepted her hired work for that design.
Nancy is too cheap to pay for a small keychain.
Yeah.
Why does Jenna have a giant mayonnaise bucket? None of the items on her menu include mayonnaise.
Huh. Mayonnaise. Well, I mean, I guess you could argue that some some muffins use mayonnaise. No, that's Greek yogurt. Never mind. That's a good question. I don't know.
Free to look at the chess book in my duffel bag if you need help.
Nancy interprets this to mean she can look inside Holt's duffel bag whenever she wants to now.
I know, right?
Holt
That's
is
great.
bad at chess.
Hey, wanna play some video games? I know
Yes.
I do. I haven't
Yeah.
seen the sun in years.
Nancy has to redo the code and the stove latch every time she re-enters the lighthouse.
I mean, it's best to keep other people out when she should be the only one going in.
Why? Did someone sneak in and reset it when she's not there? We never learn who was up in the lighthouse, why they were in the lighthouse, or why they circled today's date. We're just left to guess. The culprits did it because reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's left to assume, which is not fair. It's left to assume that the culprit was up here, of course, and, circled that date because their schemes, they're planning on, that's the final, when you learn later at the very end, when you're snooping around on the boat, you learn that was the day that they are finishing the last dive. That's why it's circled. So I'm presuming that they also use this area as a kind of a lookout point, looking out to the water, maybe?
Ordinarily you could, but permits mean paperwork.
Do your job, Andy. Andy and Jenna join the long line of Nancy Drew characters who claim to be constantly busy when all they do is stand behind a desk all day.
No.
Inside that box marked caddy.
The puzzle pieces are clearly located outside the box. This puzzle. $14.95 for this? What a ripoff. The clamming challenge is long and boring.
Yeah, but do you know the cheat for it? I don't recommend it because it could break the game, so save your game before you start. But you should look up the cheat for how to do this and get all of your clams without having to move around too much. I mean, you're not supposed to know about the cheat, but...
Why is this the only website in the game which has a URL?
Because that is... it's a search terms. So if you check your search history, I mean, you're typing in key terms versus a full website URL. That was from the book.
Dr. Predivicu won't answer her phone unless you're standing at a specific spot.
No, I think it's based on another logic code, actually.
Puzzle.
What's wrong with that puzzle? It's fun.
Jenna says the necklace is the prettiest thing she owns, but it's actually kind of ugly.
Subjective opinions, I guess.
Nancy dodges a falling object puzzle reused from previous game.
I know, it's classic. It's a cliche in the Nancy Drew universe for Nancy to have things dropped on her head or she gets hit by the head by something blunt object.
Nancy doesn't die when this heavy rock drops on her head.
Like they also stole a bunch of tools and some boat part.
Why does Jenna have tools and boat parts at her restaurant?
Maybe she owns a personal boat.
Holt leaves his duffel bag behind whenever he leaves the cafe. Nancy
Maybe he stepped outside for a call?
finds a hidden passageway cliche.
That's a good cliche.
Katie forces Nancy to get her a sandwich, even though she could easily walk over there and make a sandwich herself.
She's so faint. She can't do that.
Every sandwich looks exactly the same.
I know. You know how much art we'd have to put into the overlays for the different sandwich combinations you make in the game?
Hey, I just got done emailing you something.
How did Casey get Nancy's email address?
That is a very good question. I wondered that myself.
Why does Casey think Nancy cares about old stained glass pictures?
Because it involves an article about the Royal Flush Saloon, which Nancy needs to be aware of that old title, or that old name of the place, for the puzzle purpose.
If the culprits use this area every single day this week, why are both sides of the door locked?
Maybe because they lock it behind them?
If you enter the tunnel through the lighthouse, you can't go out through the exit that leads to the rest of the town.
Yeah.
So how did the culprits use these tunnels to rob stores?
There were multiple of them.
The light looks exactly the same after Nancy cleans off all the rust.
Oh well.
It's amazing how quickly and easily Hilda translates Nancy's phone number from Morse code.
Some people are really proficient in reading Morse code.
Hilda calls Nancy in order to send her an email. She could have easily sent Nancy an email from the start.
Yeah.
How did Hilda get Nancy's email address?
I don't know. That is still a good question.
How did Hilda learn Nancy's name?
She reads lips through her telescope. I don't know.
Nancy can't confront Katie about the fish she uses to feed the orca.
Wait a minute. Her phone number? You mean you could easily look up someone's phone number? I wonder if that information is out there.
Hilda's scavenger hunt more or less forces you to do the same thing 3 times in a row. It's long and boring. Good thing Hilda prepared this entire scavenger hunt months before the culprits appeared, because otherwise the game would only be half as long. If Hilda really wanted to stop the culprit, she wouldn't be messing around with scavenger hunts. She would have called the police and told them about the secret tunnels.
I know, right?
And
She's
she should
eccentric.
also tell the police about the secret tunnels.
Yeah.
Benjamin Hawkins built all of this with 1866 technology.
Yeah.
Why did the culprit steal Katie's work gloves? They have free access to a hardware store.
And they stole Katie's stuff and Jenna's stuff and...
Why wasn't Katie using her work gloves when she's working the entire game?
She has another
Why
pair?
did the culprits hide the cargo in this cave?
Because it's a hidden cave with a hidden entrance.
Later on, they move it to their ship. Wouldn't it make more sense just to move it to their ship in the first place and not bother with the cave?
Well, at some point, in case they ever get caught, you gotta not have any evidence on board. Maybe?
Nancy doesn't look at the smuggled cargo here. Why not?
Because she learns just enough from seeing one box that it was smuggled goods.
Nancy doesn't bring any of this evidence back for the sheriff or the Coast Guard. How does
Yeah.
Nancy know the exact time when the smugglers will be stealing more cargo? Did I miss something here?
The circled date on the calendar should allude to it, but the exact time, yeah, that's true. There's only so many hours in the day, and she's running out of hours, so it's gotta happen soon if it hasn't happened yet.
Nancy put in a lot of work to find the culprits, but Katie came across them by pure chance.
Lucky.
Just think. Nancy could have spent the whole day napping on Katie's boat, and the outcome would have been the same. Since Andy's the culprit, why does he help Nancy sneak on board the smuggler's ship without stopping her or capturing her or something? Culprit foils their own plot.
A ruse to get Nancy in a place where they could do something worse to her or get her away from calling the sheriff or reporting to the authorities.
Nancy breaks into the culprit's hideout with no real plan of what to do or how to get back out.
Yeah, that was not well planned, Nancy. Putting yourself in danger like that?
Whale's making her final dive.
No, the whale is clearly still inside the ship, not diving. Gee, these smugglers look familiar. Have I seen this three-person lineup anywhere else? Oh.
No, hang on.
Fortunately-
If you noticed, there was more like, hang on. I mean, look at that silhouette. It looks kind of like Holt Scotto's silhouette, and that's Andy's, and that's, what am I blanking on that character? Katie. It's Katie's
Line
silhouette.
up anywhere else? Oh.
Could be her, too, I guess.
Fortunately for Nancy, the smugglers are taking a break from evil doing so they can explain their plot through clunky exposition.
How nice.
Andy doesn't warn the other smugglers that he's bringing Nancy to them. The smugglers are more worried about Nancy than about the fact they kidnapped someone less than an hour ago.
I can't call anyone now. Someone might hear me.
Nancy says this even when she's in the secluded below decks area where no one can possibly hear her.
Yeah, that's true.
The ship has a whale-sized tank. Why didn't they just keep the orca here at all times? That way they wouldn't have attracted attention from locals. Why does Andy have a sack lunch on this desk? Did Andy not eat today?
Probably.
Katie's arms are tied, but her legs are not. Why doesn't she try getting up, moving around, looking for something to cut the ropes?
She's not that bright.
Shh. Listen.
Andy's too far away to see the girls, so how are his footsteps that loud?
Echoey metal boat can echo the sound. Sound carries a lot further.
Nancy doesn't think to put the gag back on in order to fool Andy.
Yeah, fail.
Hey, how'd you get that gag off? Well, it appears she's already here.
Andy believes it's impossible for Katie to get the gag off on her own.
I know.
Why doesn't Katie buy Nancy some time by kicking Andy here?
Because ESRB. We couldn't allow the player to be forceful or harm another character directly. Indirectly, yes. Directly, no. That's why the end catching scene is the way it is.
Andy is surprised to learn Nancy is on the ship when he literally brought her there.
Maybe he expected his thugs to capture her real quick.
No matter where Nancy is standing, she teleports to this location for strangulation. Strangling culprit reused from previous game.
I know.
Somebody stop her!
Andy calls for someone to stop Nancy when nobody else is around to hear him. How did Andy manage to shut and lock the door when he was nowhere near it?
Maybe that's what he shouted that out, and maybe someone was nearby.
If you try to use the air tank on Andy, he deflects it like it's made out of paper. Nancy would have to be hovering over the water to throw the air tank at this specific angle. Andy is knocked unconscious when the orca throws the air tank at him, but when the same thing happened to Nancy earlier, she wasn't hurt at all.
It probably landed, like, right in front of her feet instead.
Both Nancy and Andy should be severely injured from having air tanks thrown at them at high speed. It's nice that Holt had a change of heart and decided he cares about Nancy and Katie's safety. Too bad all this happened off screen, so we never get to see any of it.
Animation
the plan he
budget.
cooked up to recover smuggled animal furs was a darn good one.
No, it wasn't.
First, he got himself an orca that the Russians had trained for covert military operations.
Andy has covert Russian military contacts.
I know, it's a bit far-fetched, isn't it?
We don't learn the results of Holt's selection. Non-moving horse is non-moving.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote the credits clearly was afraid they couldn't spell Dr. Irina Predoviciu correctly.
Wait, is it not in there? Actually, I think if Irina Predoviciu is not in there, it's because it was done by... Oh, I shouldn't say the name, because it could be... maybe she just wanted to be private about her credits. It was someone actually who worked at Her Interactive at the time. Oh, total problems. 148 sentence air tank to the head. Oh, goodness.
Nuts.
It's time to give you... No ads. Okay. Well, that wasn't too bad. That was fun. Alright. Well, thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next video. And be sure to follow and like Arglefumph's video. And, his playlist for his Everything Wrong series is down in the description below. So be sure to check that out. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.